Dungeon Keeper 2 was one of my favorite games of all time. Dungeon Keeper 2 came out back in 1999 and I spent hours upon hours playing it. However, the Dungeon Keeper series seemed to end after Bullfrog, the company that made the Dungeon Keeper series, basically disbanded. I remember hearing rumors of a Dungeon Keeper 3, but, well, back then it didn't happen. However, a team of die-hard Dungeon Keeper fans called Subterranean Games decided to take it on their own and create their basically Dungeon Keeper 3 version, which they call War for the Overworld. So here's what the main screen looks like. It shows campaign, sandbox, survival, multiplayer, skirmish, and I'm just gonna click on a couple of these tabs, but I'm just gonna go into a sandbox mode here in a second and just show you, well, the game. So here we go. As you can see, it's basically click and drag on tiles to clear out little pillars of earth, and then you're gonna start building your rooms on there. And again, there's the dungeon heart that's all familiar with the Dungeon Keeper series, but it's not really called the heart of the dungeon in this game, it's called the core. But for all intents and purposes, it's the exact same thing. And I'm gonna click on the layer and click and drag, and just like regular Dungeon Keeper, the room is built on your own tiles. And then here is a neat addition. This is basically a research tree, and you get points to unlock these little tabs, and they can be rooms or spells or potions, etc. And you get these by basically researching in the library, which this is called, what is it called? It's actually called the archive, and instead of warlocks you get these guys called occultists, and they're, well, virtually the exact same as warlocks in Dungeon Keeper 2. So I'm gonna go ahead and just build up some more rooms, and once I get a few more built, I'll start showing off some of the minions and what the other rooms do. And here's a close-up of the archive. It looks pretty neat, and as you can see, there's a cultist doing his work, and basically over time he'll add points to your research tree. And this guy is basically your goblin from Dungeon Keeper 2, but this time they're called gnarlings, and, well, they're very light melee infantry, basically. You can also build this room called the Beast Den, and and it basically summons beasts. They're not actually minions summoned from portals. They kind of just spawn on their own in the Beast Room. And look in here, this is the basically workshop, but in the game it's called the Foundry, and instead of trolls they got chunders, and they're the builders of traps and doors and all that good stuff. Spirit chamber unlocked. And this right here is essentially your guard room. It's actually called a garrison here, and it attracts ogres instead of dark elves to your dungeon. And these ogre guys are essentially this equivalent of bile demons. They actually, well, there's one right now, and they also work in the Foundry / workshop, and there's some really heavy duty melee units.
An oculus has entered your dungeon.
And here's the crypt. It basically summons, what are they called? Necromancers, and
a necromancer has entered
yep,
your
there we go. And there's some pretty awesome looking dudes. When I put them in the arena, though, it's basically the same as the fighting pit. They don't really do much, and again, this game is still in beta, so I mean, they look cool at the moment, but still, I can't really show you their combat yet. And then this room that I'm building is called the Spirit Chamber, and what that what creature that attracts is the Witch Doctor, I believe, and they're some of the more higher end units. I don't really know much about them, but needless to say, on the bottom of the screen you can see all the uh, little tabs in green. Those are all your buildings. I think there's 2 more that I haven't unlocked, but I think there's a little bit more buildings and also more creatures and minions than in Dungeon Keeper 2. And right now I'm building a torture chamber, and this attracts the succubus, essentially the, what was it called, mistress in Dungeon Keeper 2, and they're pretty hardcore units. I'm not sure why there's only one kind of device in this torture chamber. I tried to expand and make more, but like, you know, in Dungeon Keeper 2 they had that spinny thing, and then some other devices in there, but you know, see there, I try to build more, but it's the same one. I don't know, I think they're adding more, so pretty neat thing to look at. And then here at the bottom, this is your creature screen, and just like in the other Dungeon Keepers, it shows from left to right your units. Like on the very left is cultists, and the gnarling, and so on and so forth. Again, this has so much Dungeon Keeper DNA in it that it's just awesome. The creators of this game really did a great job in copying, well, not really copying, but using a ton of influence from the Dungeon Keeper series and essentially making Dungeon Keeper 3. And here's your hatchery, or, well, this is actually called a slaughter pen, and instead of chickens, there's micro piglets that your creatures feast on. So that's a pretty cool thing. I mean, if you remember, there was this saying in Dungeon Keeper 2, what's his name, the advisor or whatever, the dude with the deep voice would say, "Micro piglets stalk your dungeon," or something like that. I'm glad that carried over into this game. And in the bottom left, you can see me clicking on the other tabs, and here's the spell screen. You got like possession, create imps, lightning bolt, etc. Then you got constructs, which are, I'm assuming, little like replacement wall, and they're unique kind of things that you build in the workshop. Then this is defenses, basically like wooden door, ramparts, and etc. Basically defenses. I guess the previous one was more of the like offensive, like turrets and stuff. And then on to the next tab, I believe it's called potions, right? Yeah, potions. And these are basically things brewed up in your alchemy lab that can do a variety of things. Like, for example, I made a group of spirit workers, and they're under a potion, so I'm gonna go ahead and click on that and release them. They're basically, what they do is they're super fast imps. And yeah, there's the potion sitting on one of those cauldrons. Accidentally placed it into another cold one, but yeah, here we go. I'm gonna, yeah, just showing that off again. Yeah, here I'm gonna place it somewhere over here in this sanctuary, and they're just gonna be really fast. Yep, see it, zoom, zoom, zoom. Super fast imps. And also, not all the character models are loaded, and there's still a few glitches, such as right here on the screen right there. There's a Beastmaster. I'm gonna slap him, and as you can see, he's halfway in the floor, but they're working on that. So just one thing to point out: there's still a few funny and incomplete things. So let's check out the possession spell. I possessed a cultist, and well, first things first. When you move in possession, it's really choppy and laggy, but um, so I'm just gonna try to go from one place to another and stop, and then just kind of show off the world around. So here's the lair. Each creature gets a little square space to build their bed in, basically.
An augur has entered your dungeon.
There's a gnarling. There's some oculuses flying around, little floating brain thingies. That's a succubus, the really bright purple things. There's another beastmaster behind the little pen. That's a skarga, basically a spider beast. Forgot the name of what that flying thing is. Yeah, there's that beastmaster again, just floating through the floor. There's a cultist. Some of these character models look pretty good. There's an ogre. And yeah, he kind of clips right through me, but whatever. And gonna go into the workshop or foundry and just take a look at the dudes doing the work. There's an ogre just smashing away, and there's a chunder banging his head on an anvil.
Has entered your dungeon.
Pretty neat looking things. And there's a necromancer reading a book. Again, yeah,
Witch doctor has entered your dungeon.
he looks pretty cool. Alright, now I'm gonna try to show off some combat. I'm expanding my little fighting pit thingy, and I'm gonna drop some dudes in there. Some cultists and gnarlings and just like in Dungeon Keeper 2, your creatures won't die, they just actually spawn right outside with only 1 bar of health. So let's drop some more creatures in there and just watch them fight. And yeah, as I was saying about the necromancer fighting bug, yeah, he's standing there while a crackpot just throws stuff at him. And yeah, just might as well drop a couple more, see what happens. Yeah, I don't think that dude is really gonna do too much.
Entered your dungeon.
Yeah, and the witch doctors are their combat in the arena isn't like loaded yet or something, so they just walk around and whatever. They're working on it. And same thing goes for those Oculus brain floating thingies, they just kind of stand there and do nothing. just for fun, let's put them in, and then nothing happens. So yeah, I just wanted to show off this game a little bit, and I'm I'm pretty excited for this. There's not really a whole lot to do in the beta yet, but since I'm a huge Dungeon Keeper fan, this has got me really excited. The full campaign and full release will will be out in the beginning of April, I believe. It has been delayed a few times, but that's okay. The team is really trying to work hard as they can and to get this to be really good. And if they need to delay it again, well, I'd hope they do, because a game like this, they've been waiting for this for so long. So, well, there's essentially Dungeon Keeper 3, just a little preview of it. I'll probably make some more videos on it, but yeah. War for the Overworld, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for taking a look at this game.